in the world. Welcome to the FPL Game Week 5 deadline live stream. I know we are about 2.5 hours before the deadline, but early bird catches the worm and all that special. So we are going to be covering off all of your Game Week 5 questions in today's live stream. As you can tell, it is early doors, so it's the perfect opportunity if you're waking up from your lovely Saturday slumber to have your FPL questions answered. So please do get them in the chat section. I'll be sure to answer them, hopefully over the next 45 minutes. I do apologise to anybody that is tuning in maybe for a deadline live that's going to go up until the deadline, but let's be real. If I'm kicking off at 8:30, I can't be doing a 2.5 hour session. So I'm going to be doing this for about 45 minutes just because we got commitments on this Saturday morning. But I thought this would be a perfect opportunity for maybe a smaller live stream to go through in detail all of your questions. And I also need your help. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I need your help to decide what to do with my team. So you are my heroes today. So please do get in the chat when I get my team up and give me a little bit of advice on exactly what to do. And of course, we will kind of deep dive into specific questions as well with the help of Fantasy Football Fix. Any questions, any player comparisons that you want, please let me know. This is the time to do so. So let's crack on with some of the stuff in the chat. As always, if you're enjoying it, please do drop a like. It's always massively appreciated. So I can see TR is in there already with an early bird special question. Ask and rate my team. Now, TR, I'm going to say this first and foremost. I don't actually know how to rate teams because is it a rating scale out of 10? Is it an opinion? So I'm just going to say I don't actually know what rating team means, but I would, regardless, try and help you out on this one. So in terms of your team, Gabriel, Robinson, Porro, fine. Porro in particular is a player that I'm a little bit scared not to own. Smith Rowe, Gordon, Jota, Salah, absolutely fine. Obviously with Jota, we have a little bit of concern about him starting, but I think we had that every single week regardless when we owned him. And then you've got Solanke, João Pedro, Haaland. I think it's a great team. I think it's a really solid team. I don't think any of those players are desperate sells at all. Captaincy on Mo Salah. Obviously you've got the slight rotation risk with Diogo Jota, but we're accepting that each and every week. I think that's a good team, mate. I'm going to rate that. Now let's just be real. It's an arbitrary number. 8.5 out of 10. JP, hi mate, Havertz going to be the number 8 now with Odegaard injury and Jesus number 9. Better to go for a Saka double Arsenal defence. Yeah, JP, so this is a perfect example right now of waiting and gaining a bit more information on the upcoming game against Man City. Now again, Man City, a little bit of a different test for Arsenal. We don't really know if the team selected in Game Week 5 against Man City will be the team that we see in Game Week 6 and 7 because of course the opposition is going to be a lot easier. I still think Havertz will play in the number 9 at times, so I'm not fully expecting Gabriel Jesus to remain as the number 9 for what it's worth. I heard Jesus wasn't incredible in the Champions League, so we need to have a little bit of an understanding whether that is going to be him up front or Havertz back in the number 9. So regardless, I still think with the fixtures coming up for Arsenal that you almost want to attack them offensively because they are so damn good. And I know obviously the centre-backs can score goals, but you do want a piece of that attack where you can. I think double defence, though, is always going to be good value. And again, we'll reassess after Game Week 5 and see what is coming off the back of those lineups. Tahir's saying, something don't look potent at all, just waiting off set pieces. Arsenal, yeah, I agree. I think they are slightly coming off a bit of a high in terms of their underlying numbers now that Odegaard is out of the team. One to reassess, but again, if we're panicking, the value in that defence of maybe a David Raya and a Gabriel is fantastic. So something that we need to consider in our FPL teams. And Andy saying, I have a dilemma. Have both Isak and João Pedro and Erling Haaland, 1.5 in the bank, 1 free transfer. I want to replace Isak by Watkins. Is it a wise move? Absolutely. Now, we're going to come on to Alexander Isak in a minute because I, for one, still have him in my team as well. So I'm sharing this headache with you. But if you're in a position right now where you want no Saturday morning stresses, I think Alexander Isak to Watkins is a perfectly fine move. And it's worth noting as well, Game Week 6, Aston Villa are away against Ipswich. So I know we're all talking about Arsenal and doubling up on Arsenal, but if you were stuck with Ollie Watkins away against Ipswich, that is not a bad fixture at all for your team. So yes, Isak to Watkins just makes complete sense. And the only reason why I haven't done it is basically I'm waiting to see if we do get any 3 p.m. kickoff news before the deadline. That is literally the only reason why I haven't made the transfer myself. And we'll come into my team in a minute. I just want to cover off the first few questions in this chat before we get into it. Adam, hope you're well, mate. Jonas, hope you're well, my friend. Nevis, the best YouTuber is live to embark on us with his infinite wisdom. I'm not sure about either of those, best YouTuber or infinite wisdom, but it's a pleasure to be here as always, my friend. Mitchell saying, yo, morning, bro. Hope you're well, my friend. And we have also got JP asking, start 2 out of Gabriel, Robinson, and Davis. Is that Leaf Davis? JP, if it is Leaf Davis, I would start him over Robinson, and then I would start Gabriel. I'm just going to be honest with you. If you own an Arsenal defender, I would just start them. Historically, these Man City Arsenal games, Arteta versus Pep, have been very much a low-scoring affair, and we know Gabriel is such a threat from set pieces. And let's be real, Man City aren't completely watertight defensively. So would I be surprised if we were to see a goal from Arsenal in this fixture? Absolutely not. So I think I would go for Leaf Davis if that is him, and Gabriel. Watkins hat-trick, if it does happen, then it is going to go crazy online, because I know he is right now the most bought player going into game week 5. And Immortal Technique, hope you're well, my friend. So guys, keep putting any questions in the chat. John saying, not a chance we're getting any news before kickoff. John, that's a really good point. The one thing I will say is this. If you've been tuning into any of the deadline lives, we've actually been getting Liverpool team news before the 11 o'clock deadline. And Liverpool been kicking off at 3 p.m. on these occasions. So we've in the past had Diogo Jota news, where we said that he is starting. We've had some Man City news as well about Erling Haaland starting, when we had a little bit of worry about whether he would start. So, John, I actually think I agree, we're not going to get any major news, but we have already had some early Liverpool news, and that in itself could be quite big. And if you haven't made a transfer already, enough of a reason to wait until now, because with people like Diogo Jota, if we do get news that he is benched, then that might be a decision for some FPL managers to make. So I agree, but I also do think there is a chance we do get some news as well. And a super chat from Elite Crew, thank you so much, mate. Let me cover off that before we go into my team. Robinson or Munoz to Porro, or have Trent, Hall, Barco? Okay, so Robinson or Munoz to Porro. So what we need to firstly do is check out the fixtures for both teams. So let me get those up for you, mate, right now. And again, it all depends on your time frame. If you're just looking at one game week in isolation, then of course Robinson is at home against Newcastle, who may not have Alexander Isak. So that's a big thing we need to remember. And of course Munoz has been disappointing, because we were expecting some better returns from both Crystal Palace defensively and from them offensively. And of course this weekend, Crystal Palace at home against Man United. Whatever you think about Man United, I still think they have the ability to score goals. However, after this game week, Crystal Palace have Everton, Liverpool, Forest, Spurs. I think that's a really bad fixture run. Whereas Robinson at Fulham remains with fixtures against Forest, City, Villa, Everton, Brentford. Tricky fixtures as well. Because of the money tied up in Munoz being 5 million, maybe he's come down a little bit. I actually would use the money from Munoz to upgrade to Pedro Porro. But of course, with your defence right now, then you'd be looking at starting Robinson, Porro and Trent as a back three, and I would then bench Hall and Barco. Hope that has helped, mate, on that one there. So guys, keep putting your questions in the chat, always here to answer, but we're just going to quickly come to my team just to give you a bit of an update on where I'm thinking with my team. And this is going to be where I need you guys massively. This is what I love about the channel. I hope to help you guys, but I really value your opinions as well, because there are so many people in the chat who, let's be real, probably have way more FPL knowledge than myself. So it's a real great opportunity to bounce back some ideas with you guys, because I really do value them. So let's put up my team, and hopefully we can come to some sort of conclusion live on the stream what to do, because I think it is quite an interesting debate with my team. So let's get this up right now. So this is how my team is currently looking, with one free transfer, 1 million in the bank. So you can see I haven't made a move. I accepted that Ollie Watkins was going to rise in price last night, because as I mentioned, yes, we might not get any news, but taking a look at the kickoff times here, we have got Newcastle kicking off at 3 p.m. and we have got some people in the Newcastle in the knows that have given us information in the past. So this is the reason why I held off, because we've had in the previous game weeks, I believe last week, we had news about Erling Haaland, and Man City kicked off at 3 p.m. So we already had that news. I believe in previous game weeks, we've had news on Liverpool, for example, in other game weeks. So for me, there was enough of a reason to postpone making the transfer last night for a potential early team news. So in terms of my team right now, I'm just going to give you the 4 options that I'm debating as of now. Option 1, crazy enough as it is, if Alexander Isak is confirmed fit, actually just rolling the transfer. I know it sounds pretty mad looking at my team because it is in a real bad situation, but rolling the transfer right now. Second option is doing Alexander Isak to Ollie Watkins. That is obviously a very easy move for the team, and it just makes a lot of sense, and also gives me a captaincy option, whereas right now it is on Erling Haaland. Option 3 is that I do Muniz to DCL, Calvert-Lewin, and then I bench somebody like a Smith Rowe or a Rodgers and bring in to the team Calvert-Lewin with a front 3 and just hope Alexander Isak starts, because I think he either starts or he gets 0 minutes. And the fourth option is... I need to remind myself. Let me remind myself what my fourth option is. My fourth option is doing Isak to Solanke. Isak to Solanke to go in on that Brentford fixture. But if you said to me right now, Watkins at home against Wolves or Solanke at home against Brentford, I prefer the Watkins move considering I have the money in the bank. So I'll be super interested to know your thoughts in the comments. Let me just get a quick poll. Which would you pick? And we'll do a super quick one because basically I don't want this to drag on for you guys because it's not really that engaging. So Isak to Watkins, Isak to Solanke, or Muniz to... I'll put DCL because you know it's Calvert-Lewin. So guys, let me know in the poll there what you would do with this team. 1 million in the bank. And again, just to give you a bit of context, I'm looking to wildcard in game week 6 potentially. But if I do get in a situation where my team actually is allowed to roll the transfer, which again, if that is a dream situation for my team, then if you take a look at it, I would already have Arsenal in the shape of Bukayo Saka and 2 free transfers available. So with those, I could easily do Alexander Isak to Kai Havertz if we think he's the best option. And then I could do Diogo Jota to Mbeumo. And all of a sudden, the team looks actually kind of close to what those will be wildcard, and obviously some slight tweaks here and there. So I don't think it is out the realms of possibility that if Isak's confirmed fit, if we do get the news, and I roll my transfer, that I end up actually not wildcarding in game week 6, which feels like quite a powerful position. Maybe it's a crazy position as well. So it's either madness or genius. And take a look at my overall rank right now, 1.7 million. I'm starting to ask myself, maybe it's more crazy than genius on that one. So, but again, I'm trying to see if we get any sort of Alexander Isak news before the deadline. If, just a heads up, we get no news on Alexander Isak, I think I will panic, to be honest with you, and I will do the Isak to Watkins move just to give myself some guaranteed game time in this team, because if Isak doesn't end up rocking up for Newcastle, I've then got Muniz coming off the bench where he's going to play 10 minutes, and I've got Lewis Hall on the bench, which is just another disaster. So basically, no news equals Isak to Watkins in my eyes, just because I've got the money available and it does make a lot of sense for my team. So that's the current thought process on the team. Let me know your thoughts in the poll. Let's get back to some of the questions and hopefully I can answer the best ones. And again, if you are enjoying it, guys, please do consider smashing that subscribe button. It's always massively appreciated. Hopefully it's providing some value along the way, and hopefully you are ranked better than me right now in the world. So what have we got? We got Homegrown FPL. Great name, by the way. Good morning. Play one of Robinson, Greaves, or Lewis. Okay, so Robinson, of course, at home against Newcastle. We got Greaves is, of course, away against Southampton. And then we have got Lewis. I'll be concerned about Lewis's minutes just because it could very much be a Kyle Walker fixture. So of those, I'd actually be inclined to say to yourself, maybe Greaves, because I still think Newcastle have goals in that team, as we've seen over the last few weeks. Hussein saying, help with João Pedro, should I bench him? I think if I own João Pedro, I think I would just start him and hope for the best. I know there's a lot of concerns right now, but He has been pictured in training, and I think a lot of people are in a situation where if you bench him, you might as well just sell him in that sense and go to someone like a Calvert-Lewin who is going to give you guaranteed minutes. So I think personally I'll be very tempted just to go for the keep and start for João Pedro. So I was just checking to see if there's any information on Twitter for injuries. Minimal saying start Raya and Gabriel or Raya and Aina. I personally, based on the fixtures, and again just to remind everybody, the fixtures on the screen here, double up on Arsenal feels really brave, but of course if that does come in, that is going to be phenomenal. Do I love the Brighton fixture for Aina? No. I'd actually be tempted just to go all in and go for double Arsenal, because I just personally think Brighton will score against Nottingham Forest. So I do love the thing of just going all in on Arsenal, and if that clean sheet does come in, you are absolutely winning. And also we need to remember, you're benching Gabriel Aina. Well, in terms of attacking returns, I think Gabriel could definitely deliver from a set piece, for example. Will's asking a really good question in terms of Vardy or DCL. And I think this is a popular question right now. I do want to give it a little bit of, just 2 minutes, a little bit of a deep dive just to give an understanding on who is the best option. So I'm just going to bring up, give me 2 seconds, a little bit of a comparison between Calvert-Lewin and Vardy, because I really think it will help managers out there. Again, I don't think we've got any sort of concrete news on which one to go for, because we've only had 4 game weeks worth of information, so we literally do not know exactly what to go for. So this here is a comparison between Dominic Calvert-Lewin on this side and Jamie Vardy on the other side there. Now, just to give you a bit of a rundown, because end of the day, it is really helpful to have stats like this from Fantasy Football Fix. Calvert-Lewin played 326 minutes, Jamie Vardy 330. Let's be real. What world are we living in right now where we're still talking about Jamie Vardy? Fair play to the bloke. Honestly, he is still delivering at the top level. So I tip my hat off to Jamie Vardy. So points per game, 5.5 for Calvert-Lewin, 4.6 for Jamie Vardy. Now, when we come into the touch heat map, again, not really much to report. Penalty box touches for both players. Leicester have been okay as a team. Everton, we know, have lost all 4, but probably unlucky to lose all 4 of those games. They haven't actually been terrible. So the real stuff that we want to look at is here. So they've both played pretty much the same minutes, so we don't need to look at per 90 minutes here yet. We're taking a look at the general information. So goals, 2 apiece. In terms of expected goals, 1.32 for Calvert-Lewin, 0.74 for Jamie Vardy. So Jamie Vardy is actually half the XG of that of Calvert-Lewin, which is quite interesting. And I would say the shot volume for both has actually been quite low. 6 for Calvert-Lewin and 3 for Jamie Vardy. But again, in teams that don't really dominate phases of play, this is what we expect, really. We're not going to see 20 shots from both of these players. They play for teams that are going to be playing mid blocks or low blocks in terms of defensive shape, and then looking to get some big chances in small amounts, basically, as teams. In terms of expected assists, we're not really looking at players here for expected assists. So in terms of the overall package right now, it is going to be Calvert-Lewin. In terms of a 1 game week punt, of course, Leicester being the home team, there is some weight behind that in terms of going for him as a 1 week punt. But for me, if you're looking a bit more longer term, I do think the answer would be just getting it up. Would be Calvert-Lewin. Sorry, I'm just trying to juggle 2 things here. I think the Everton fixtures are good. Leicester, Palace, Newcastle, Ipswich, Fulham. Really good fixtures long-term for Everton. So if you do get stuck with them, I do like Leicester's. Everton, Arsenal, Bournemouth, Southampton, Nottingham Forest. But I think I personally would just lean more towards Calvert-Lewin myself. In terms of a 1 week punt, it honestly is a coin flip. I know a lot of people out there are going for the Leicester option in Vardy just because they're at home. I personally still think I'll go for Calvert-Lewin, but I'm going to be real with you. Would I be surprised if one does well and the other doesn't, and vice versa? Yeah, I think it's a really tough one this week, but I would go for Calvert-Lewin myself. Let me just bring back up. Thanks for the question, by the way. That was a really good question to deep dive into in terms of the 2, because I know a lot of people are talking about that right now. If you had Watkins, would you captain him over Erling Haaland JP? I think I would. This is why I'm slightly leaning towards doing the Isak to Watkins move, because it means I can take the captaincy off Erling Haaland. Let's be real. I say that all the time. Let's be real. With Erling Haaland, it's the one game against Arsenal where I do expect his ceiling to be very, very low in comparison to other game weeks. So while he could score a goal, I just think he's very limited to what he can deliver this week. Whereas Watkins for 70 minutes, we've seen already, can deliver big returns, especially against a Wolves team that are struggling defensively right now. Swapping Gordon or Jota for Marcus Rashford, Mr. Murray, it does feel like one of those sort of things with Rashford where you have to get on him early because he very much is a purple patch player. But would I be doing it this week away against Crystal Palace? The answer is no for me. If you are really compelled to do the move, I actually think I would. So the answer is Jota, because Jota is a minutes risk. But could I honestly get rid of Jota at home against Bournemouth? The answer is no. So I'm going to say to you, I don't like the move. If I had to sell it this week, it would be Gordon. But long term, if you're looking at it, I'll get rid of Jota. It's a very difficult one to answer, mate, on that one. I do apologise. I'm captaining Trent over Haaland. Too big a risk. Sorry. I think Trent will start, and I think his minutes will be, like we've seen, 60 to 70 minutes as per usual. So I don't think it's a terrible move. I think it's fine. Could we see a clean sheet? I think in terms of market odds, they are up there as some of the best. So I'm expecting a clean sheet from Liverpool based on the odds. So on that basis, yes, I do think a captain on Trent is absolutely fine. Andy, thanks for your advice, mate. You are the best. Thank you so much, mate. Sorry, I'm really behind on the chat. I'm trying to catch up on this here. So I'm going to end the poll, but we've had about 200 votes on it. 42% are saying that I should do Isak to Watkins, 20% are saying roll the transfer, 20% are saying Muniz to Calvert-Lewin, and 18% are saying Isak to Dominic Solanke. Just to give you an update on my team, for those that maybe just come in a bit later on, for me, my understanding on the team is I'm just waiting for some news on Alexander Isak. We might not get it. If we don't get it, I will do Isak to Watkins because I just can't take the risk with my squad depth. Oh, Christ, what have I done there? Of Isak not starting. It would just be absolutely terrible for my team, and I'm fine having Watkins this week. If we to get news that Isak starts for Newcastle, then I think I will just postpone that transfer, and I actually then will just roll the transfer and accept that this is going to be a really difficult game week. I don't see a world where I go for Dominic Solanke now. I think it probably is Watkins or nobody. So thank you so much for voting in the poll. Clearly Watkins is the outstanding pick, and I understand that being one of the most bought players going into game week 5. So I'm going to end the poll there because I do want to kick off another poll right now to see who is going to be your game week 5 captain, because this is big. As you can see with my team, I'm in trouble with captain. No Mo Salah. I just need to get lucky for one more game week, and I don't think I'm going to get it. So it's going to be a tough old week. So who is your captain? I'm going to put a poll in the chat. Sorry, my dog just yawned and it sounded really weird. So we're going to go Salah, Haaland, Watkins. Now I can only put 4 options in the chat, so I'm going to put other. And if you vote for other, if you just do a massive favour and just comment who you are going for, that would be super handy just to get a bit of an understanding. Annoyingly, you can only do 4 on the YouTube chat, which is a little bit annoying. FTG saying Rico, Gabriel or Robinson. I actually think I would start Gabriel over all of those right now. I'm going to be honest, I really would. Craig saying sometimes doing nothing is often the best outcome. I like that optimism, Craig. I hope that happens for myself. Gabriel versus Robinson, I actually would go for Gabriel. I just think it is going to be, with the absence of Odegaard, it is going to be ever more so for Arteta to get a resolute Arsenal performance. And we've seen in previous results that they can get the clean sheet against Man City. And Kevin De Bruyne being out potentially is a big factor. Nevis makes a really good point. Which players are you looking to bring in over the next couple of weeks? Which is a really good question. So when we take a look at the fixtures here, if I change this to game week 6 onwards, because it will slightly skew what we are looking at. So from game week 6 onwards, we do start to see some fixture swings. So Arsenal in particular, you have to get Arsenal in your team from game week 6 onwards because they are such a consistent team and the fixtures are too damn good that if you don't have triple Arsenal or at least double, you're going to be in a little bit of problems. So Arsenal is absolutely where the fixture swing is going to be. And for my team, if I don't wildcard, and again, it does look like I will need to wildcard if I can't roll my transfer, then all my free transfers are going to be focused on bringing in, of course, an Arsenal player. And right now, I do like the combination of Saka, Havertz, and one defensive option. But again, if we see Havertz deployed in a midfield role, then I think that does lessen Havertz as an option. And then I think we'll be more looking at the potential of doing double Arsenal defence and then going for somebody like a Bukayo Saka for those guaranteed minutes and on penalties. So that is going to be the priority for game week 6 onwards, piling in on Arsenal assets because the fixtures for the next 3 are fantastic. Outside of that, in terms of players that we want to invest in, Brentford, a lot of talk about it. I do like having Shardy as a differential, but I'm going to be real. I actually want to see some minutes and some returns from him to even clarify, to even want to go there. And also Mbeumo. That feels like the money man in terms of game week 6 if you cannot get that. So that is a little bit of thought. Oh, and just a heads up. He might not want me to show this. I do apologise, Brandon. But this is the reason why we are hesitating right now on the Alexander Isak move. So as you can see, this is a quote taken from Craig Hope, who, as you can see on the far end, relevant people, he is a Daily Mail reporter correspondent for the North. So he is actually like a legitimate correspondent. And usually what he says is, you know, I'm not going to say gospel, but he does talk pretty legit stuff. So what Brandon here is quoted is saying that regarding Alexander Isak, he hasn't trained to my knowledge, certainly the earlier and middle part of the week. Newcastle then make a late decision. My information is I think he will play, definitely with the group, and I think he probably will start. Now, this is taken from Craig Hope, which is a correspondent from the North, regarding Alexander Isak for the weekend. Will this actually mean anything? We honestly do not know the answer. I'm going to be honest. We have no idea whether Alexander Isak will start. And do I actually just like make my decision based solely on this quote? The answer is going to be no. I would have to get some legit news that Alexander Isak starts to keep him in the team. But it's the reason why some managers are looking to keep Isak, just for the hope that he may start. So that is the reason why people are maybe more convinced to keep him than others. People saying about Calvert-Lewin being ill. No, he is trained. He is available for selection. We had that confirmed from a lot of sources. Bro, are Isak and Alisson fit for these game weeks? Alisson is a risk and Isak's a risk. I do apologise, mate. We don't actually have any full clarification on those two players, which is really frustrating. Adam's asking, what site is that for the fixture planner? This is Fantasy Football Fix, Adam. Do I think Pedro will start, James? Honestly, I don't know the answer to that one. I do apologise. Do I think he will start? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no, but I know that's not what everybody wants to hear right now. Finn saying Watkins, Haaland or Salah captain. Salah every day of the week. Salah for me is just so clear of every other option. He would be my absolute captain if I had him. And Empty saying, let's not be real for a moment. Honestly, Mr. T. The two things I say the most, let's be real and honestly. I can't stop saying it. It's like an illness. So I'm going to apologise to everybody for that one. Maybe we'll have to do an evening where I stream and we maybe do a bingo or something for every time I say those things. Eddie's saying, hi, Nacho, who do you have on your wildcard, McNeil or Rodgers? Well, we've had so much pain from Rodgers. And because of the European football and Rodgers getting a lot of minutes, I think it would be McNeil controversially. Mintet or Rodgers? Yes, I would go for Mintet. I would take the punt on him with that fixture at home against Nottingham Forest, even though I would argue it is more difficult. It's difficult with Rodgers because he played another 90 minutes in Champions League. If there ever was a fixture for him to get rotated, I do feel like it could be this one. And it's another reason why I feel like I need to make a move with this team, because if Isak and then Rodgers end up getting benched or not featuring, then we got problems. Thoughts on doing Muniz to DCL, mate? Yes, I absolutely like that move. I think it's perfectly fine for your teams. And again, just to give you a kind of bit more of a picture on my team, because it's a bit easier doing like a visualization with these teams as opposed to just talking about them. So, by the way, most underrated fantasy tool in the game. This is the FPL Plus Google Chrome extension. Basically syncs with the site. It's unbelievable. Just to give you an idea, one move that I could do if I was really worried about minutes in my team is doing Muniz out for Calvert-Lewin, and I would ignore the yellow flag. He is trained. He is kind of like, he's not ill now, so he should be fine. Bringing in Calvert-Lewin for that fixture, and then deciding who to bench of this slot. Now, really, it probably would be Rodgers, because I'll be a little bit more concerned about the minutes than that of Smith Rowe. Rodgers on the bench, it will just be my luck that Rodgers gets a 12, 14 point haul when he is on the bench. But this is one consideration for my team, and it gives me a little bit more squad depth, because if, for example, Alexander Isak doesn't play, I think he either starts or we get 0 minutes, then at least we got Rodgers as a little bit of a backup to come into the team. My one major concern with this is that if we're going into the game week and we basically think to ourselves, Isak could play, he might not, it feels like a lot of money and such an easy way for me to get to Ollie Watkins, who seems like such a brilliant option this week, to just kind of bring in Calvert-Lewin. It's just a very underwhelming transfer. Whereas if we reset this a minute, even though it doesn't make my team any stronger in terms of defensively, I just feel like that looks more... That feels like more points that you can see on your screen here with Watkins in and captaincy than bringing in Calvert-Lewin into the team. I feel like this feels better than the previous team that I'd done. And I forgot to mention, we had obviously the captaincy poll put out, and 67% of people are going for Mo Salah, which is a little bit scary as a no Salah owner. Watkins at 13%, Haaland at 8%, and then other at 12%. And I can see some names in the chat: Cole Palmer, Luis Diaz. Some people going for Son, which is really interesting. Now, for people that are asking about captaincy outside of Erling Haaland, it's a tough one. Sorry, outside of Mo Salah, because as you can see, I'm one of those managers. I've currently got the captaincy on Erling Haaland. Of the players that you can see on your screen right now, I feel like Erling Haaland is the best. I do think you can go for a differential punt on someone like a Trent or a Robertson, absolutely. But I'm also conscious Bournemouth have been pretty good offensively this season in terms of underlying numbers. So of the team that you can see, I think the captaincy on Haaland is the route that I would go for. However, I do think Watkins, with the expectation of 70 minutes, is actually a bit more of an exciting prospect than Erling Haaland at home against Arsenal. So if I was to make the Watkins move, I then would probably put the captaincy on him as opposed to Erling Haaland. Let me know your thoughts in the chat on that one, but I actually think 70 minutes of Watkins is probably where I would go as opposed to 90 of Erling Haaland. Especially with that news of Kevin De Bruyne potentially being out. And I need to answer some more of these questions. So we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into these questions now, guys. So please keep putting them in. Again, unfortunately, I have to do a bit of a shorter pod today because I got a lot on this morning, which is chaos. So we're going to keep this up. Get your questions in the chat. We're going to answer them over the next 10 minutes or so. But I don't know where you are in the world, but it is raining very heavy right now in the south of England. It is worth noting. So I'm just taking a look right now to see if there is any sort of news regarding injuries or updates. And right now, this morning, there is nothing. Now, for those managers that are a little bit interested, maybe later on, closer to the deadline, who is there to follow? I'm just going to put, I'll just say it. Lazy FPL have been putting out a lot of good team leaks. So Lazy FPL over on Twitter, that is my first one that I think you absolutely should follow, because if there is going to be a team leak, it usually will come from them. And then after that, make sure you are following some of the big Twitter accounts that are like Let's Talk FPL Andy and all that, because if we are going to get team leaks, those boys are very good at sharing that information. They don't necessarily get the information, but they do share it when they need to, which is, absolutely helpful for the community. So get your questions in the chat, guys. Let's get through some of these right now. Salah or Watkins captain? Absolutely Mo Salah. Start Harwood-Bellis or Robinson? I probably would go for Harwood-Bellis if you own him now, especially with Stevens being suspended. I would expect Harwood-Bellis to start. Vijnesh is saying, Wildcard in game week 6 already have done Muniz to Vardy, which I think is a good move. Should I -4 Isak out to Solanke? Winks will come in though if Isak didn't start. Yeah, I'm less inclined to do the -4 right now unless we do get news that Isak is ruled out. You have to remember, Brentford is a tough fixture for Spurs. I don't think they're just going to roll over. Thoughts on starting Sade? Yeah, Ellie, if you have Sade, I would start him 100%. You're kind of ahead of the curve a little bit on that one. Owen's making a great point. Absolutely agree. Nobody knows if João Pedro is going to start. When people ask myself and all, are they going to start? I'm as informed as everybody else. I have no real idea. We just have to work off assumptions. And again, this is why playing your own game is really, really important, because some people think to themselves, I don't want to take that risk, and end up selling João Pedro. And that is probably the most sensible move. But again, some people think to themselves, what if? And again, that is where it comes down to your risk appetite in the game. Do I think Garnacho will start? Well, I think he should start, but we saw Amad Diallo play really well over the last few. I think he will retain his place. Rashford maybe has found a little bit of form again, and we know that he's a purple patch player, so it'll be crazy for Erik ten Hag, who should know his player profiles right now. If Rashford starts to get hot, you have to keep him in the team, because he is very much that sort of player where he'll have a fantastic period, and then, as we're seeing right now, dip away for like a year. So he is not the sort of player that you can go, you know what, come out of the team for a little bit. You got to basically keep on with Rashford once he does deliver. So I can't see Garnacho coming in off the left. Amad Diallo's played too well on the right to go out the team. So I think Garnacho remains an impact sub for now, which does seem crazy. Martin's saying, what am I going to do? Keep Isak. Well, obviously, I didn't make the transfer last night. So because the deadline is 11 a.m, and I know a lot of people right now are saying we won't get news, and I absolutely agree. We probably won't get news. But as I mentioned, we have in the past, in the last few game weeks, had early team leaks from 3 p.m. kickoffs. We've had the Erling Haaland news, and we've had Diogo Jota news in previous game weeks, who all kicked off at 3 p.m. So because I've waited this long, I'm going to wait until, I'm going to be real, 10:50. That's usually my deadline, 10 minutes before the deadline. And if we don't hear anything, then I will pull the trigger, and I will do Alexander Isak to Watkins and put the captaincy on Watkins. If we get news that Isak's starting, then I feel more inclined to either roll the transfer or do Muniz to Calvert-Lewin in my team, and then obviously bench someone like a Morgan Rogers. So I'm happy to wait as close to the deadline as possible, realistically. Heshan saying, why are you not taking a hit to get Salah in for captaincy? Well, I probably stupidly is the way to put it, ended up troubling up on Liverpool. So the only way that I can get to Liverpool is, to Mo Salah, is selling Diogo Jota. So if I was to do Diogo Jota in, I somehow need to find 4.2 million. And the issue with my team right now is that I don't have a lot of cash cows that I want to sell. So, for example, Alexander Isak, the only player that I could afford is a 4.2 million forward, which unfortunately, as we can see, they don't exist in the game. So I can't downgrade Alexander Isak. So the only one that I can downgrade is Bukayo Saka. But at 5.8 million, who would I bring in that is any value that is guaranteed to start? McNeil? Don't really love it. I'm going to be honest with you. Don't love it. Especially for a -4, we have to remember here. And I'm selling Diogo Jota, who could easily start and do just as well as Salah. So I'm one of those where, unfortunately, I've made my bed and I've got to sleep in it. And I feel like it is going to be quite a rough sleep tonight. Anthony's saying start Lewis Hall or Muniz. I think both are major risks, but I would probably just take the punt on Lewis Hall and hope for the best. Craig, you're very right. 9 goals for Liverpool against Bournemouth previously. Mo Salah, 0 returns. Maybe that is on the cards once again. Adam, don't mind that at all, my friend, putting the captaincy on Watkins. Emmanuel, As I mentioned, if we get no Alexander Isak news, I will do Isak to Watkins because my team just cannot rely on on Isak not starting. The bench is terrible. If we get news that Isak is starting, then I think I will roll my transfer controversially and allow myself some flexibility in the next week. Just so people know why I'm saying about maybe rolling the transfer, because it is helpful doing a bit of long-term planning here. So if we were to get the news, for example, that Isak is starting and I go into the week with this team, which again is quite a bad team. Sorry, give me 2 seconds, guys. Just need to check that wasn't the door. Give me a second. Guys, apologies. Amateur hour we had post delivered, so I had to go at the door. Okay, so just trying to catch up. So just to give you an update, if I was able to roll my free transfer, just to give you a bit of an idea on what I could do with my team. So coming into game week 6, as we know already, we got to try and get some Arsenal players in the team. So one move that I could make with 2 free transfers is selling Alexander Isak for somebody like a Kai Havertz to bring into the team. And then I could look to do someone like a Diogo Jota to, oh Christ, no, not that one. To someone like a Brian Mbeumo with those brilliant upcoming fixtures. And then going into game week 6, the team doesn't look too bad. Obviously, I'm missing out on an Arsenal defender, and I could easily take a -4 if I wanted to. But I also think the defenders actually have okay fixtures. Liverpool against Wolves, Robinson away against Forest, not the worst in the world. And when we take a look at the rest of the fixtures here, obviously we don't have any Ipswich exposure for the Aston Villa players, but of course we need to remember Champions League for Aston Villa is going to be a massive factor for minutes. And we don't have any Bournemouth, which could be quite a little bit of a concern with somebody like a Semenyo, who has obviously been doing very well so far this season. So I do think with the team, we could get to a position where I actually do roll my transfer, use 2 in game week 6, and actually postpone the wild card until later on in the season. It obviously is a bit of a risk, but if I'm trying to find edges in the game right now, I do think maybe holding off on my wild card until later on could actually be a bit of a risky play that could pay off. Would I sell Salah to Saka right before Salah plays Wolves? Again, this is the problem with a lot of managers. We're going to come to game week 6. You're going to have Mo Salah available against a Wolves team who've conceded a fair few goals this season. Feels a little bit risky going to someone like a Bukayo Saka who could be running to the ground in terms of minutes with Champions League and Premier League. So, difficult one, mate, but I do think you will naturally probably get tempted to do so. Right, guys, I do apologise. Thank you so much for tuning into this stream, but I am going to have to wrap it up now. As I mentioned, it was a bit of an earlier stream because we got quite a busy morning today. So we're going to have to wrap it up there. I think. Anyway, let me just double check. Yes, I think we're going to have to wrap it up there, guys. So thanks so much for tuning in. I do apologise that it was an early stream. Just to give you a bit of a overarching theme on everything. So in terms of Alexander Isak, we don't actually know what's going on. Could we get some news before the deadline? Yes, we could. And I really recommend following people like Lazy FPL over on Twitter and Let's Talk FPL, 2 accounts that if we are going to get anything, they'll either share it or they will leak the news. So one of those 2 is going to get you in the know. In terms of my team, if we get no Isak news, I will sell him for Watkins and put the captaincy on Ollie Watkins. I think that is logical for my team, as I can't really justify with this team taking any risks with this awful bench. So that is going to be probably my play there. In terms of the rest of my team, If we do get news that Isak is available, then I will probably look to either roll my transfer or do Muniz to Calvert-Lewin and try and just bolster the team by benching someone like Morgan Rogers, for example, who could be a minutes risk this week after playing 90 minutes in the Champions League. So those are the current plans. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. As always, if you did enjoy it, please do subscribe to the channel. It's always massively appreciated. I know that I'm now having to log off while others are logging back in, so make sure you check out some of the other amazing people out there. There are so many great streams on right now who should be able to help you out. That'll be me for today. Thank you so much. I will try and update you guys with my team in the community section once we get the news. But again, I kind of told you what I will do if those situations do happen. So have a brilliant day, guys. Take care. Hope your game week is fantastic. And I will see you probably Sunday evening, where I'll be crying over the fact I didn't have Mo Salah in my team when he gets the inevitable hat trick. So take care, guys. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you real soon. Cheers.